All right, good morning and welcome to Morning Matters. A beautiful morning. It's a little chilly where I am. I have on my sweater already. It went straight from winter from summer to winter. There's no fall. All right. Good morning, Charlotte. Good morning, Ray. Charlotte, how are you? Where are you? Welcome back.
I am back in Naples. I think I recovered. I'm
Good.
recovering, but I think I'm almost there.
You are there. There you go. Ray, it seems like forever since we've seen you. What have you been up to?
A little bit of everything. Just busy with work and family and all that good stuff.
Well, good. Today is the 8th of September. I'm not sure if the holiday this year in Belize is going to be on the 10th itself, or if it is today, or if it's going to be tomorrow. But this is September celebration month in Belize, Ray. Every day is a big activity. It's a big deal. If you're, it's just really, really festive. Carnival was this weekend, so there's a lots of activities going on. So I'm sure people at home are in the process of wondering if they should go to work, call in sick, or just continue partying for the entire week. Those are their big decisions for this week, okay?
Just the whole month of September, Ray. Don't even think about having any kind of work because it's a constant party.
That's right. It's just a good time. It's a time to be grateful. So it's Monday morning. We are grateful. I'm going to start with Ray. Why, Charlotte? Because yesterday I said to Ray, you'll decide what we talk about today. You will, yeah. And I didn't prep for it or anything. So see what he came up with. Ray, morning again. What are we talking about today?
Good morning. I don't know. Yesterday was a big day for me. Yesterday was 18 years ago. Yesterday was the day that I began my relationship with Jesus Christ. So that was a big day for me. I got to spend the day with my son at the Colts game, and they won. But the past week or so, I just been thinking about concentrating on myself and getting better, and thinking about my growth and where I came from 18 years ago. So I spent a lot of time yesterday thinking about that and how that's affected people around me in a positive way. And so that's what I just been um, on thinking about this week leading up to that day.
Well, I first of all let me say congratulations on being consistent with that, because we're sure that this walk is not easy, and because we, in my opinion, we serve a forgiving and kind God. Sometimes we might slack off and say, well, God will understand and God forgive, but I'm sure that 18 years of consistency is not easy. So let me say congratulations. And how has the walk been going?
Well, and when you it's hard when you talk about it. Sometimes when you talk to others or try to, and I don't say, I try to tell people, you got to know how to. I was talking to one of my friends. You got to know how to talk. He runs a security company, and he has a young man that has a lot of potential in his company. And he said, "Man, I'm going to tell him that he needs to step up. That he needs to um, become more authoritative and this and this." And I said, "Well, that's where you turn people off. And this is where you turn people off in your walk, because sometimes you can come off as you're being judgmental because you're trying to tell them what to do. And what I like to do is I just like to share with people where I come from. So you want them to be able to relate to you. So you don't want to come off at people like you've never been through nothing. And sometimes you can get pastors, you can get people that's been in the church for 40 years, and they can talk at you like, baby, the old people, baby, you need to get it together. You know what I mean? When they never actually had it all together and still don't have it together themselves. So you want people to be able to relate to you. So when I'm talking to people, I always refer to myself and my struggles and where I've been, because I guarantee you in over 18 years, you're going to be able to find something that relates to that person, that a problem if you've been through. So when you've been through that and you get that point, then that's when you're able to make connection with them. That's when they're able to see that you're not holier than thou and that you don't judge them and do all that. So my talking with people, I like to use the word sharing, and I want to find something that connects to them.
Well, good. So we're going to talk a little bit about that this morning. That is definitely something to be grateful for. I think we're all grateful for that, for you. Because when one person's life improves, the whole world improves to some degree, because we're in small spaces where we make big differences. That's how we improve the world, by improving ourselves, and then by extension our family, and then it's a trickle effect. It's a ripple effect. All right. So Charlotte, morning, what's on your heart this morning?
I'm just grateful for my family, um, my extended family in Belize, and
Amen.
all these women who surrounded me in the last couple of weeks, and those who surrounded me from afar in prayers, as you know, Rhonda. Ray, I still haven't heard the voice, but I've seen it in action. And trust me, you would have been very proud of us women to see what we pulled off from abroad and in down boots on the ground in Belize. You would have been so proud to see so many women together in strength. And to tell you, if prayers wasn't there, prayers was there 100%.
Excellent. I want to say, I'm having some difficulty with this platform. I can see that we're still on, but I can't see us, and that's just messing up with my head. But anyway, I'm gonna get it figured out soon enough. I don't know if, let me see. Um, I think I've removed myself, but now I need to add myself back in. I'm not sure what I am doing, but there we are. Anyway, I'm grateful for the opportunity that I have to improve not only myself, but the people around me. All right. So let me see if I can figure this out in the meantime. So while I'm figuring this out, I want to say good morning to Liz, and then I want to ask Ray what the topic is going to be while I work on this. Say something, Ray.
Right.
Even if you can't see
Yes.
yourself, don't worry. Somebody's out there is seeing you.
And I think the topic for me is just, like I said, for this week about self examination and growth. Being able to um, just listen to people, humble yourself, know that you have not arrived. For me, that you have not, I have not arrived, and there's so much more work for me to do. And I have to open myself up to be able to listen to people. I believe you can learn from people's mistakes. So people say, I can never learn that from him. Well, sure you can. You can always learn something from somebody what not to do. So if it doesn't work out for them, then you for surely wouldn't jump into a bad business venture if you know they didn't work out with them, or you would analyze the situation and say, well, if I take that piece out, or if I remove this person or remove that, or you know what I mean, this can work. So for me, it's been a week of a self-examination of what does Ray need to rid himself of to be able to make a positive impact on people around him. And I have to keep a small group because I know that some people want big platforms. A lot of preachers want the mega churches. A lot of people want to be the center of the person in the nonprofit organization, or they want to be the center of the person in this. Well, I just want to be on the team, and I just want to be able to make for people to have an impact for people's lives to be changed.
Well, excellent.
Well,
I,
so
I
Ray, I think maybe I'm understanding, but in that same line, I think that's one of my things. I have a pet peeve with when you're coming to me and, oh, honey, you need to learn the Bible, or honey, you don't know what you're doing if you don't go every Sunday. And you talked about, the judgment. And my thing is, I might not know the Bible, but I certainly live it. I might not know but it's the judgment that really, it really puts a damper on things when you're trying to move ahead and move forward in your faith and making it stronger. And then you get just that little naysayer, that judgmental piece that says, oh, you can't move forward because you don't know the Bible. You have to sit down or you can't move forward because your church doesn't do this, or you can't. is I would hope that when we're moving together as Christians, we can move together in the same pace and like in saying, Rhonda, I am so happy that you have found God, and I'm so happy that you're making a change to follow Christ.
And this is true. And so and that's why when I deliver and speak to people, I just can only tell them what has gotten me where I'm at, what I go to when I'm in a panic situation, when things have, when I've been at my wit's end and said, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. So, and I do encourage people to read their Bible, because I do believe that is their best teacher. When you get to talking to about a personal relationship, that's when I do my best thinking, and God speaks to me a lot when I'm in the shower, because nobody can bug me, and I'm alone. And so when I come out of the shower, man, not only do you feel refreshed, but I do a lot of thinking in there and ask him questions. And so the judgmental part of it has been something that I've learned over the last couple of years in my speech and how you approach people. And if you don't take time to examine yourself, then you will think that you're just doing things right. And I would encourage you also to be bold enough to speak to somebody that sounds like that and say, have you, and I don't know how to say that to a person, but if it's somebody close to you, have you really examined yourself? So people don't examine themselves before they go and look at Rhonda's life or Charlotte's life. And so what they do, they project their pain or detour their pain on what your situation is. So my biggest concern is with Ray and how he's presented, how I say things, but it's a process. 18 years is a long time for me and my growth, and it's not easy. So the thing about this thing and growing, it's not going to be for everybody. And I pray that people find their peace in God and be able to hear that voice that they're looking for, because he's speaking to you in everything around you. And you just got to have that personal time, and it's that relationship. And I do encourage people to read their Bible, because that's what's changed Ray.
Well, good. I can't figure out why it is dark on my screen, but I see that it's looking good everywhere else. So I'm not going to pay too much attention to that. I'm just going to leave it just the way it is. Beverly, good morning to you. I'm just going to keep it going. Other than that, I will not be a part of the show. I'm going to try to figure out all the technical thing. And before you know it, bam, nothing is going to happen.
Well, we can see you.
Yes.
That's the funny part. I'm the only one that's not able to see anybody, but that's okay. So and I know that it's showing good on this stream. So I'll just pick up where I am. I won't touch it. I won't do anything else with it until the time comes. Right. So now let me try and be a part of the conversation, because I missed most of it because I'm trying to figure out a problem that I don't know how to fix. So I'm back. And I wish I could pick up where you left off, but because I wasn't focusing, I'm not sure where to pick up. So here I am. I think a lot of times, I think you were talking about focusing on yourself and your own growth and not being too judgmental. I think it's so difficult, though. I was saying that the other day that I was going to say something, and then I stopped myself because I said, you know what? It's none of my business. Truly, it's none of my business. I have no right judging how anybody else is on their walk with Christ, simply because it's not my walk. And I don't understand the journey that they are going through. The things that might be of hindrance to me, they might not see, and vice versa. So I think that we just have to celebrate the fact that we all want to be on the walk, and we strive to do better each and every day. But you know what? My issue is, nobody asked me what it was. My issue is like I can't figure it out how to be better at it. Is I say all of that, and then I say, well, if hypothetically, if Ray or Charlotte, they were such Christians, then they would behave differently, or they would do this, or they would do that. And then I comfort myself in thinking, oh, it's just human that we are like that, but it's not.
It,
But
It's
it's
not
not.
human that we're like that. Because I tend to feel like it is human that, you know, we can't be 100% at all times. So there will be times. I mean, we talk about there will be times when we fall off the edge and then catch yourself up, and just like how you just said, Rhonda, that you realize, oh, well, yeah, I shouldn't judge. So I mean, I feel it's just in our DNA to just judge. So we would judge, but then we catch ourselves up and say, that's not who we're supposed to be.
That's
But then
not.
there are some people who really don't even care.
and I think one big key thing for me is learning to keep my mouth shut at times, because sometimes it's not every time to say that you need to say something right in that moment. Because some people may be going through something and are very angry right then. And the reason why I know that they don't listen is because I didn't listen. Whenever you're in an angry state, the last thing you want to hear is somebody telling you what's wrong. You already know what's wrong. You're going through the situation. So the last thing you want to hear is somebody saying, man, you should do this or you should do that. So a lot of times, um, I've learned God has given me patience and control of my tongue to say, hey, it might not be a good time to say something right now. But I'll have to admit, there's sometimes that I do say, and then it doesn't go well. So you learn when to speak and when not to speak, because it just turns into an argument. And I can relate that to my marriage. Sometimes there's some times to say things that you have to deal with some things, and then there's time just to let it go and let everybody think, and then come back to that. So we're learning when to say stuff and how to say it, without facial expressions. I'm not good at facial expressions. My wife tells me all the time when she watches my council meetings, hey, you got to watch your facial expressions, because what I think that somebody gets up and says something very stupid, you don't know how you look. And she's like, man, I'm like, so you just don't know that. But over time, you get better with that when you listen to people critique you, and then you're able to learn to accept that, because some people can't. Some people can't accept criticism. And if you can't accept criticism or wanting something to look at your life, then you do not want to read the Bible, because it's going to pick you apart of what things that you thought that you were doing well, or you thought that you were um, I'm a forgiving person. No, you're not. You're not a forgiving person. You hold on to that, and then when you see that person, it all comes out. So, and there's a difference between like forgiving and forgetting. No, we're not going to forget things, but to forgive somebody is to be able to speak to them without remembering what they did wrong to you, and lashing out at them. So it's a process.
That's a process that I don't think a lot of us will ever be able to fully um, master, because I take note. I mean, I anybody that really knows me know that I will get angry. I get angry, but it doesn't last for more than 5 minutes. But depending on who you are, I note it, and I note it for a very long time. And because I note it, now I have to treat you, in my opinion, differently, because you have shown me who you are. So I forgive you. Do I really forgive you, or do I just don't want to be bothered with you anymore? And then now I start to feed you like we'd say in Creole with a long spoon. So I'm not sure, because I'm not sure that you fully forgive when you are still, oh, I remember that Ray spilled the coffee intentionally just to be a brat or whatever. So do you really forgive them, or do you just putting that in the bag for now and focusing on something else in the meantime?
So, Rhonda, when you said you note it, because
Mhm.
I am the type of person where I will give and I'll give and I'll give. But when you pushed it too far and I can't take enough, then that's it. And I will shut you out and you don't exist. You could be in the same room and it's like I just see through you. If I could walk through you, like the invisible, I would walk through you, but in my life, once you reach that point that I've given you enough and you have gotten, and I've gotten to that point that, okay, that's it. Is that unchristian like? Because I just cut you out. I'm just done. You are just I just remove what the verse say. I will not put no milk out there. Milk is done.
Well, I can't say if that is Christian like or not, because I think we all process differently. But what I would say is that I can't function like that, because if I function like that, I carry a level of resentment that I believe is bad for me. And I'm all about me, and people can say that that is selfish or whatever, but my mental, physical, and emotional health is paramount. That is what comes first. So I can't handle it like that, because I will not let Ray or Tom Jones steal my joy. So when I see Tom Jones or Ray, I must not be upset. I must be in a good space that I can still say to them, morning, how are you? I don't really care how they are, but it is the right thing to say. So I will still be able to say, good morning, Ray, how are you? And then I move on. I'm not vexed. I am indifferent. I get to the position of being indifferent. But there was a time in my life when I would say, gosh, Ray's in the room. I'm not going to be out. I'm going to avoid him. But avoiding him takes so much effort. It is easier for me to become, and these are all ways that we cope, and I'm not sure which one is the best one. The best one is what works for you. For me, I know how to be indifferent and separate my emotion from the situation. So let's say you talk bad about me. Let's say I know that Tom Jones is talking bad about me. I go to an event and I see Tom Jones, and bam, they put Tom Jones to sit right next to me. Some people would move, right? I would not move. I would take ownership of it. I would say, hey, Tom Jones, that's it. Morning, afternoon, just I would bid him or her the time of the day and get on. And then I will put myself in a place of indifference, because now he's a stranger to me. And why he's a stranger to me is because the person that talks about me, I don't know. The version of him that I had is not the version of who he is. So they're two separate people. The way I saw him and the way he is are two different people. And I would give the person the courtesy that I would give a stranger. And the courtesy I would give a stranger is to say, hey, how are you? That's it. I'm not interested in the rest. I'm not vexed with them. I don't know them. I'm all right. So did I forgive them? Maybe. Did I forget? No. Did I note it? Oh, it's written in bold letters across my mind. Yes. I don't know. It's a confusing space. Is it godly? I don't know. I've never thought of it as godly or not. I've really thought of it from a selfish position of coping, I guess.
And so there was a lot said there, and I can relate to a lot of that. And when you talk about not forgiving people and forgetting, doesn't mean that you have to go back and be involved with them. I don't believe that. But it's when you forgive someone, you have to model yourself after. So this is reading the Bible. You have to model yourself after the way that Jesus forgives. And it's a tough thing, because he says that he forgets our sins as far as from the east to the west. So when Ray goes and commits an act of cussing out that guy during road rage, you know what I mean, and which happens quite often, and I'm glad a lot of people don't see that. It's just me in my car. But when that happens and you realize you're convicted by yourself, I shouldn't act like that, and even nobody's around, and you say, God, please forgive me. When unlike him, we remember stuff. He doesn't remember things, because I think that if he did remember all that we have done to him and he still blesses us, I mean, it would be impossible. So we have to model ourselves after the way that he forgives. And that's a tough thing. But if somebody comes in your house and steals something, doesn't mean you got to let them back in your house again. I wouldn't. But it doesn't mean that if you saw him on the side of the road, would you stop and help him? Well, I don't know. It all depends on who it is, I guess. If I would stop, maybe I'd make a phone call for him. I wouldn't necessarily stop myself, but I'd call a tow truck. But because you want to keep yourself out of that situation. But when you don't forgive people, you carry that with you. And then when you come across the next person, they may be the wrath from that other person. So, and it's a process. Again, everything's a process. This is not like, and I don't want you to sit here and think that Ray's saying, oh man, I forgive that and I just don't think about it anymore. No, or that person, or I don't look at them and say, man, if I see them, I'd want to pimp slap them. You know what I mean? I don't think like that. And I don't want people some people can think that you're perfect, but we have to model ourselves. I do. I have to model myself after Christ and what he says and how we're supposed to forgive. And it's a process. And you mentioned earlier about when you know somebody's talking to you, talking about you. I recently had that happen where somebody called and said, Ray, man, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is why this person just talks about you. And in this case, it's a political difference of how you think. But it goes so much deeper than that, and this is a family member, and I'm thinking this is some family member. I can go back and find pictures where they came to my when I was 7 birthday party in my backyard, and I see all these people, man, and we grew up together. And at this point now, when you think differently, they don't like you, and even though they knew you, and that's hard to understand. And so now it becomes a problem when family events come up, and you have to choose where you're going to go or you don't go. If you don't go, then Ray thinks he's better than everybody else in this. And then you do go, and then you have to deal with a bunch of chaos and turmoil. So I choose to protect my peace at all costs and just not go and let them talk about me, and continue to love them.
You know, it's a funny thing. I mean, I don't want to stay there, but I'm gonna stay there because I think that that is the dynamic in a lot of family, though. That is just how it is. So if we are not the ones doing the talking, somebody's doing the talking about us, just because that is life. That is really what life is. And I'm sure that I'll say this because I'm sure that my brother knows, and if not, he just really doesn't care. But when I probably told this story already, when he turned his life to Christ, we were like, man, you know, Greg like acts tush, and he act like he better than you, and oh my gosh, we can't even drink a beer anymore without. I don't even know if he was giving us the side eye, but we felt that he was giving us the side eye. Oh, he's not good. All sorts of things we used to say, not in a bad way. It was a huge running joke in our family, like amongst my other siblings, right? And then as time goes by, but as I sit here now in this chair, it had nothing to do with Greg. It had to do with the fact that we didn't grow. It had to do with our inability to be able to see the new version of this man. We wanted to keep him in the familiar version of where, not even in a malicious way, just because that's what we were accustomed to. We were accustomed to all of us coming to some one of our homes, drinking up some drinks, talking foolishness, and then going home. Now he's missing because he doesn't see life like that, and we are not. At that time, we were not able to appreciate the growth that is happening in his life. So we thought that he felt that he was better than us, and he thought that we were so, I don't know, all sorts of foolishness we used to think. But as I sit here now, I'm grateful that he didn't separate himself from us fully. We could still go to his house. We just know that there are new rules. And even that we used to laugh about, right? And he would still come to our house when Greg is coming. Oh gosh, we're going to drink because we respect him still. We're going to drink after Greg leaves, or we're not going to drink as much, or whatever it is, whatever adjustment we felt like we were making. But we had a joke about him. But now we don't have a joke about him anymore because we're able to see him for what he saw himself for long before we can see it. So it could be that in a lot of our families, hopefully this conversation will help people to recognize that when we see somebody here, and then we see them moving here, and then we say, oh, the Rays and the Gregs of this world, they think they're better than us. It's not that they think that they're better than us. It is that they begin to think in a different way that we are not thinking in this time. And because of that, they're not better than us. They're different from us. And until we all can elevate ourselves to that position, then it's only when we can see it from their perspective. If you're standing on the ground and somebody's standing at the top of the hill or middle of the hill, they have a different view. So they have a different perception and a different outlook on the journey. But if we are always on the bottom, and I don't say that to say that the bottom is a bad place, because the bottom is a place of building. um we can't appreciate the view that a person have on the second floor, the third floor, the fifth floor. So we, as family members and friends, we can't be so judgmental. We have to come from a place of trying to understand. And the person on the second floor, the third floor, can't be angry with the person that's still on the first floor. The person on the second and the third floor have to understand. I can't be so hard on Rhonda, because you know what? She don't know better. Once we take that position, then we're not vexed with them. We just, like we are saying, Akril, we know how to handle them, because we understand that they don't understand the position that we are in. So I think it takes a little bit of understanding from both sides, and hopefully a conversation like this can help somebody that is in this position to see things a little bit different. Because I'm gonna say the Rays and the Gregs, they could say, I'm not messing around with Rhonda and Eden because they make too much jokes, they talk crazy, they do all sorts of foolishness. Or they can say, you know what, I will be consistent with the Rondas and the Edens of this world, because hopefully by God's grace, one day they too will get this view. So it depends on the position that we take. And by God's grace, we're all now able to get a similar view because we're moving, but it takes understanding from both sides. And I think the person that is in the most experienced and knowledgeable position have the burden to do the right thing, if you will. That's the my rant. I know it gone on forever.
Well, and you gotta know that when you're talking about being in different positions and growing at different levels, it's when you do that, you get frustrated uh, with people, and the thing I got frustrated was because I wanted them to have what I was experiencing because I love them. So you get frustrated, and it can come out that you're judging them and doing that. So you have to learn, like I said, to focus on yourself and model yourself after Christ and what that you have to believe what that word says, and that takes a while to be able to do that. So there's some wild stuff in the Bible to people. Did a guy really lay down in a lion's den? Was there really did the Red Sea really part? Um, was a blind man able to see after they put mud on his eyes? I mean, you have to really think about yourself and what you believe that happened, and kind of add it and bring it into your own life and your own situations and trials and tribulations, and see how God's working in your life in doing that. So I know everything that we've talked about frustration, about relationships, and being different, and that person expecting you to be who you were for 30 years because it keeps them comfortable in their lifestyle or whatever. I mean, not bad, but it just keeps them comfortable. They want to see the old Ray. They want to be able, like you said, to hang around and cut up and laugh and do all that and drink. And the thing about drinking, the Bible doesn't say that you can't drink. It says not to be drunk. So, I mean, it puts you in a different mindset. But I recently ran into a guy that I've known for a few years, and we talk about growth. And he went to this church for 38 years, had a very high level position in the church, even had this thing with a marriage ministries at this church, and he was there for 38 years. So I noticed he called and asked me. He said he wanted to have coffee, and he started out the conversation and said, hey Ray, man, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. What's wrong? But it really wasn't me. It was really him. He was, I think, excited to tell me about after 38 years of being a part of this organization and this religion, he realized that he had not been growing for 38 years. Now you think about that. 38 years is a long time to get to a point to realize that you may not have been receiving what God wanted you to hear because you got stuck in a place where you went to church, you sat on the same pew, you gave your money at the same time, you talk to the same people, and it just becomes a routine, and time passes you, and you think that you are living life to the fullest of God, what God wants you to do. And then you realize you might listen to somebody else, and never get caught up in the messenger. Always listen to the message, because you can have a guy that's highly intoxicated and come and say, Jesus died on the cross for your sins. That is true. It's also true that he's still drunk. That doesn't make the message not any less true. That is true. And so never get, so you can look at somebody and say, man, I just don't think I can receive from that guy. He's and the words he put, this guy's kind of quirky. He giggles funny, but God can use the imperfect people that we see as imperfect to perfectly display his message to change people's lives. And that's what it is. It's about, some people read the Bible, and this is what I've watching different people. Why do some people not understand the Bible? And this guy said the one word that a person who doesn't believe, that's not trying to grow, the only one word they need to read in the Bible is repentance. So you cannot grow if you're still going the same direction you've been going for 38 years. You have to turn around and you have to accept something different. You have to accept that you may have did this wrong, and it starts with you. You may have to accept it and go back to that person and say, hey, man, I'm sorry. I should have listened to you. You were right. I told my mom that I would never be able to repay her for all the things I thought that she was stupid and not know what she was talking about when she was alive. I'm glad I got a chance to tell her that, because I still go back today and think about things that she told me that I wish I would have went a different direction. And so you have to humble yourself and say, man, I was wrong. You have to be able to say that you were wrong to be able to grow.
Absolutely.
Except for the marriage. I'm never wrong in that. So,
that is something that we definitely have to talk about, Ray, because I do believe that you believe that with every juice in your body. I believe that you believe that in the marriage you are never wrong, and that's not
You
the
see
case.
my face? You see my face?
I'm only about 80% right. So you know what I mean.
Wow. So that is definitely something we have to talk about, because this is while we talk a lot about being grateful, we try to talk about relationships on a whole, relationships in our home, relationships across the board. And I think that there are a lot of men that believe because the Bible says that they are the head of the household and they're the leader, that they're never wrong. And those are two separate things. And that is something that I want men, especially men of that claim to be men of God, because it's funny. And this is not for you, Ray. This is just across the board. When it's for you, I'll tell you this is for you, Ray. But this one isn't for you. We have to recognize that men are human, and there are a lot of men in this world that don't have no common sense. Common sense escaped them. So if you have no common sense, you're a man and you have limited education, you're not a great leader. Let's just face that. You might have a wife that's equally uneducated as you, lack common sense, and feel that she is the leader. That's chaos. So now you have a very chaotic situation that you are living in. Doesn't mean that she's never right, and it doesn't mean that the man is always right. So there has to be some balance. I think one of the things that Christian relationships, or relationships on a whole, but especially the domineering man that wants to say, hey, listen to me, woman, I'm at the head of this thing and we're gonna run this thing how I say. I think that's not I know that is not what God intended the relationship to be like. I know that is not God's order. Because God also said, love your wife like I love the church. And if you love your wife like he loves the church, then you'll have some common sense. Your common sense one just download into you, and you'll be like, I got to do something to please my wife. And you can be right all you want, but you have to know how to execute and how to get it. You can't be a savage about it, or else you're going to be in a household where you might feel like you're right, but there will always be tension, there will be dissension, there will be everything that is not good in a house. How good is that? And I say that not for any of us in this room, but I think it is a conversation that should be had, because there's a lot of women out there. I know a woman that she says every time she has to check with her husband, which is great. But if her husband say that it is going to storm today, even if it is in the middle of summer, everybody in that house is going to go get a boots, they're going to go get flashlight, and they're going to get raincoats. Even if they know it's not going to rain, whatever he says is facts. And I say to her, I respect that, but that is not the idea of how this thing should work. They're not my house, so handle it how you want. But at the end of the day, that's not what God intended for your life. You weren't sent here to be anybody's push around. You were, if that was the case, God wouldn't give us any, it wouldn't give us free speech, women, it wouldn't give us opinion, it wouldn't give us position, and it wouldn't give us any common sense.
Lot. So there, and you know, when I say that, of course, I'm joking with you guys, but there's a lot that you said there, in as far as a man leading the house, and he has to model himself after Christ. I do agree. The Bible is very clear on the role of a woman, a man, a child, whoever. For me, he's very clear on that. And when you each follow your role and what Christ has created you for, that's what makes the family in unity. So it's not about one being dominant over the other, but that man has to be able to lead. You, if you take a man that's leading his life by Christ, and his life has been changed, and he's diving in, this is for me, and he's diving into the Word, and he's trying to live his life the way that Christ loved his wife as he loved the church, to not provoke your children and do all that. What woman wouldn't want to be attracted to a man who's trying to make their life better? So but then when this is happening, some women become dependent on that man to make all decisions, and they don't grow themselves. So they don't learn what God wants them to be as a woman in this relationship, so they can become one and lead their family. Because this is, for me, of why the world is like it is today. And it's because of men, that men will not step up and take their position in Christ to be able to lead their families, to be able to, a guy said, you know, when you have a godly man and that a woman follows after him, then you have a godly marriage. It affects your family. Then you have a godly family. Then it goes out to the kids, take it to school. Then you have a godly neighborhood that people are seeking this and doing this. And this is how communities grow. And this is how you grow the community of Christ. And you start at home, and it starts with the man modeling himself after Christ to, so this attracts this woman, say, man, I want some of that too. And God has for men and women to be able to come together, to be able to lead their families. But you have to humble yourself, and you're not always going to be right. So when you disagree as a couple, you have to go back to the Word of God and say, you know, what is the right way to go? Now, that woman has to have enough confidence in this man that he's seeking after Christ, that there's going to be sometimes that he makes a decision and she's going to have to go with it. It may not work, but you start the pattern of, hey, I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to be with you, and I'm going to support you in this. And I'm also going to be working on myself, so that when I'm going to be able to have good input, good godly input to this, so that it's better for our family.
You know,
Rhonda, I know we're almost running out of time, but this is something that it's good for us to discuss, because in our media in the past couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of domestic violence popping up again. During the month of September, this is the month of World Suicide Prevention Month, but in the month of September in Belize, when there's alcohol, there's violence. And I think it's a good discussion for us to have, especially for the men in our country. I am certain it's not just our country, because when there's alcohol, but especially during these days that are coming up, and these days that have come, I am certain there's a lot of people that got a few hits. And we've seen it, Ray.
it's true.
We just had a really sad event where a spouse was killed, a partner was killed. And many times, a lot of those things include alcohol, jealousy, Um, it's just the abuse. And I said, like Chris, like I don't believe in the 80%. I will give 100% to my husband, and he'll give me 100%, and we'll meet. But I think it's a topic that we should touch on and we should come back on, because it will happen. And I really feel that a lot of us has lost our way, and a lot of us have lost. I looked at the church yesterday in Belize, and it was sad. Um,
Empty.
I went to a church online in Belize, and the amount of people that showed up, and there was no event happening at that time in the morning, but there was very little people in the church.
And I guarantee you, a bunch of those here in America, and even if it filters over to sports, when you talk about when you go into churches, it's mainly women that have been taking their children to church. So this is the part that I'm talking about, that a man needs to lead in what they should do. And it's not, like I said, it's not about being dominant. It's not about doing that. But when you lead in what a family should do, it brings about unity. It brings about that your kids believe in you, and that my kids are 21, going to be 21 and 20. And I have to peel them off of me. Some days I'm like, hey, man, get away from me. You know what I mean? But then I sit and think, man, in this day and age, to have a 21-year-old and 20 just want to run to the store with you or to be whatever, I'm very grateful. But you have to humble yourself and say, the world is like it is today for me. Bottom line, that men have not stepped up to the plate to be the leader that God wants them to be effective in taking care of their families and doing this, and just showing that model that women want to. Because what woman doesn't want a man that treats them good? What woman doesn't want a man that goes to church with them? What woman doesn't want a man that's following after Christ and doing that? So I put a lot of pressure on men when they come to me and they ask, they say, well, this is going wrong. And I'm saying, well, you got to be doing something wrong then. You have to be.
There are a few things you said that I agree with, Ray, and that's not normal. But
man, let's check that one in. We got another. I think that's twice in this year. Man.
In recent times, I don't know if you intended to say it or it just happened and you don't realize it. You said it and you really don't mean it. But you said that the woman can't be fully dependent on the man, and that's the truth. The woman needs to be able to develop herself, to assist, if you will, and to contribute. Because other than that, you will have, let's say you have 4 children and a wife, you will have 5 children in the house and 1 adult. We're not looking for 5 children and an adult. We're looking for 2 adults and 4 children. That is how the house is supposed to be made up. A lot of times, though, the men are the men, because remember, this ideally would be for men across the board with different cultural divides, just everybody, every man. But not every man is ready for this task. So not every man wants the contribution of his wife. Every man, there's a lot of men out there that just want to come home and be right. Also, there's going to be a portion of the men that's going to say, you remember David? David had so many wives. You remember so-and-so? They had so many wives. Why can't I? Because why can't I have 3 wives? Let's see.
I just read about that last night.
Well, funny. So, and I'm going to keep us for a few more minutes if you can. The reason, so now their argument is that they feel that because these men had these wives, that it's okay. I can do that. You can do that with somebody else. You can't do that with me. Because I can't understand. You will not take a portion of the Bible and bring it to me. I know, I use that as the vivid example of some men will take a portion of the Bible and bring it to their family out of convenience. But if you are not a woman of God as well, then you will have no rebuttal and you will have no feet to stand on. So you have to have a good footing to stand on to be able to help your Christian home be fully Christian. Because most men are, not most men, all men are human first. Before they're anything else, they are human. And if they are human, the human part of a human being wants to be right, comfortable, and they want to have the upper hand all or most of the time. And you can't have that. So your duty as a woman, if you're in a godly Christian home is to also know the Bible, is to know your position and know what you will stand for and what you will not stand for. Because there will be things that not only your husband, but your friends will bring from the Bible that you're going to say, that's an interpretation. That doesn't mean that that is the fact. That is how you interpreted that lesson in the Bible. And it might be up for interpretation as well as it might not be. But when I read it, this is how I feel about it, and this is how I'm going to live that verse in the Bible. You know why? Because the Bible is supposed to speak to all of us in the way that it is intended to speak to all of us. There's sometimes that Ray and Charlotte will read the Bible and myself, and we will all have three different experiences because we're at three different places on the journey. And that is the beauty of the Bible. It meets us where we are at every leg. And no, I haven't read the whole Bible. I must read 1% of the Bible. But I believe that with everything in me. So we definitely, I would like for us to continue this conversation. And then you said, yeah, you said that the woman has to develop herself, and I agree with you, because she can't be fully dependent if she's going to be a helper. You can't have a helper that is going to come to you. Let's say you're building this wall, and when you say, pass me the hammer, they're picking up a nail. That will frustrate the heck out of you.
Well, the one thing that I've learned over when you people, the ultimate goal for Ray is to get to heaven. And so you have to put things in perspective for me is how important is the marriage to Christ. And it's not important that enough that we're going to be married in heaven. You can't read anything in the Bible where we're going to be married in heaven. We're all going to be sons and daughters of thing. So what's the importance of marriage here? The important thing is finding somebody that you're equally yoked to. So you want to be able to know what that person is. You want to ask them about their credit score. You want to ask them about their past loan. You want to ask them about everything because you're going to be taking this, and that's for the man and the woman because you're going to be taking them on. So you're going to inherit that debt. You're going to inherit the problems that they can't pay bills, that they have a shopping addiction. So some people don't ask tough questions when they get with somebody because they're out going on cruises and they're enjoying each other and they're eating ice cream and all this. And
Ray,
so
stop talking about me. You know I eat ice cream every day. I don't like it.
So you need
I'm
so
just
that
joking.
eliminates a lot of problems, but it's getting to know that person and being equally yoked so you don't have these issues later on down. And you're going to have issues, but maybe they won't be as damaging as they could if you didn't ask the tough questions.
Right.
But where in the Bible? I'm sorry. Where in the Bible did it say to check the credit score and everything else?
Well, because you want to get into everything to make sure that because you're taking this on. So when you take somebody on, you're taking on their family. You want to make sure they ain't got a bunch of drunks in their family or murderers or serial killers and all this. I'm just saying you want to ask tough questions. It takes time to get to know somebody to be able to want to spend the rest of your life with them.
But Ray, that's going to take us into a whole.
I the same thing. I thought the same thing. You know what, Ray? Everybody have a drunk in their family, a damn crazy man or a crazy woman or a gossip.
If they do, you can make a decision. Man, after a while, this uncle keeps showing up. I don't want to be with this person. I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
But you might be the one with the crazy uncle. That means I mustn't get married because I have a crazy uncle. I have a drug addict for a sibling, whatever it is.
No, and I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the dynamic of the family and what problems that's going to create for you if you get together. This might be this person's favorite cousin. This might be the person that they give money to all the time. How is that going to affect your relationship with that person? Because this person dependent on them. Now they're going to be dependent on you both. And you're going to have to make a decision of, hey, man, we can't have this person in our marriage like that because it's going to drive you apart. So that's what I mean by that.
You know, Ray, we have to talk about this because I see it from a different position. I'm hoping that Charlotte sees it from a different position as well. And we might all see it from a different position.
Ray, you see my face?
She says, you see my face? But yeah, I think we should talk about this again very, very soon. I don't know if we can wait until Monday to talk about this because it's I want to talk about it.
I think it needs to.
And I say because if we are Christians that we claim we are, we have to lead a little bit different. cutting off is not always the answer, because I always think about the people that didn't cut me off when I was in a low place, the people that showed me the mercy that I didn't even know that I needed, that have me here. There are some people that I can think of in a millisecond, that those people, I had nothing to contribute to their lives, and
But
they had everything to contribute to my life. And it is because of their kindness and the God in them that I'm able to sit in front of you now in the position that I am, because they allowed me, without even, I don't even think they thought about it like that, to see God through them.
there's nothing that, for me, there's nothing that I'm going to do or say that's going to change somebody's life until they realize what's wrong in their life. So I have to protect my peace at all costs. So when I'm dealing with somebody that that I love and I'm trying to help, and they're not trying to go that way, I have to protect my peace. And I have to sometimes, and when you say cut them off, you have to leave them to God and themselves, so that they're able to humble themselves and realize it's because you'll remain frustrated, and I
Wait,
can't be frustrated.
I have to lead them to God. Why can't they
No,
find God the same way I'm trying to find God
you you
myself?
you can't lead them. You can introduce them, but you won't be able. Nothing that you'll do or say will change that deep hurt, confusion that's inside them. They have to begin their own relationship with Christ, and it'll keep you frustrated because people want to change you. People want to put a mark beside their name that, oh, you have pastors. I saved 150 people today. No, you didn't. You just introduced them to what saved you. So it's not, you have to change that mindset of that you're doing this, that it's me. And people get prideful and say, man, I led that person to Christ. And well, you introduced them. You didn't lead them to, you introduced them. So you didn't, nothing that you do or say is going to change them per se. But you're right. You have to live that lifestyle so they see that. So they say, man, what's different about Ray? What's different? And when they see that on a consistent basis and a lot of truth, you have to tell people a lot of truth, and that's hard. People don't want to hear, like I said, when they're in a storm, they don't want to hear, hey man, but why don't you try to do this? Well, who are you to tell me this? I'm here to tell you because I've been in that storm before.
So, Ray, I will tell you a story and I'll leave us thinking about this story because it touched a piece, right? So, in our country, everybody knows everybody. That's how it used to be. And I had a granite that everybody knew. They even wrote about her in a couple books. And she was an alcoholic. But as you know, many things in our lives at early age sometimes causes us to end up in these disorders. And she had some mishaps along her way as a young child and as a young girl, and she became an alcoholic, and she ended up on the streets. When my grandmother found her husband was aware and knew about that this was my grandmother's sister. And he said to her, as my wife, you will find a way to help your sister, welcome her into this house, and for her to know her nieces and nephew. I am so proud of that grandfather because if he didn't do that, I would have never met this grandaunt, and I would have never been able to tell the Belizean community that we need to not be judgmental, because many of these people who we saw like Chicky Chick on the streets and Red Velvet, they all had a mishap in life. But if you had gotten to know them, you would have probably known that they were the most beautiful souls, because I got to know who in our community would have called drunken Winnie's. And people shunned her and people called her names. But me, I have no doubt to say that was my grandaunt, because I was so proud of her, because I knew of things that she did that people wouldn't have even known her, thought that she would have been capable of doing. But it took one man to tell his wife that not because she is an alcoholic and not because the community shunned her, means that you as a sister will, and you will bring her into our home. But my grandfather was a godly man. He really was. And so he saw things in a different way. So I'm saying that to open the conversation, Ray, for us to talk about when we marry someone else that might have relatives who have issues, but do we close the door on that person or do we move forward? It's a good topic, and I think, Ray, that it's a good way for us to discuss, especially for the young people moving forward, because these days everybody is marrying online. Everybody is finding that online person, and they look at the same things that Ray says. You got a credit score, you got a criminal history, what's your bank account like? Nobody's marrying for love these days.
What will come next? That what I say, no?
Well, the one thing I like about that story about your grandfather is that he told his wife what she was going to do. I do like that aspect.
Oh, goodness. Why did I say that?
You know what, guys, until we meet again, this has definitely been fun. I know that we all have somewhere to go. Paul, good morning to you. Beverly, Liz Vasquez, to the people that contributed this morning, good morning to
And
you.
Charlotte, I love the glasses.
I said the same thing to her. Those are some good glasses she have there, you know. So yeah, until we meet again, be kind to yourself, celebrate yourself, read your Bible, and interpret it for what the message is for you that you feel that is going to get you closer to your end goal. And that, as Ray said, it'll get to heaven. No distraction. White Sydney and dog could come next. That's what Ray said. Okay. Bye.
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 Bye.